Quindon Tarver is best known for his appearance in the movie Romeo and Juliet, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. The 1996 movie, an adaptation of the classic Shakespeare play, was a huge hit. The movie was fast-paced, with many ups and downs, twists and turns. But the world paused during the wedding scene, when Quindon began to sing the first lines of the song, "Everybody's Free." It became one of the movie's most iconic scenes. Quindon was already working on his first album at this time. He was only 12, about to turn 13. Quindon was born in Plano, Texas, in 1982. He is the youngest of 3 boys. At 4 years old, he began singing in church, where his grandfather was a pastor. Quindon told Dallas Morning News, "I would walk around the house and sing to different songs. My mum has a lot of old records at her house, 45s. I got in trouble because I'd get in her records and play them." And his mother, Loretta, said his voice was different than the average 3-year-old. He could hold a tune. You could tell he could sing. When he was 7, his mother began to enter him into talent shows and showcases in the local area. Growing up in Texas, he soon became known by the local radio stations. He began working with 103 Jams and opening up for different acts that would come to Dallas. He sang the national anthem at a celebrity basketball game. There happened to be a rep from MCA Records. Quindon's mother would always bring his demos with her to such events. She gave one of the demo packs to the MCA rep, who later passed it on to Chris Stokes, who was managing Immature at the time. Chris called Quindon's mother personally, asking to meet with him. And of course, this was an exciting development, leading to his big break. He ended up signing with Chris and eventually got a deal with Virgin Records. While recording his first album, an opportunity arose to appear in the Romeo and Juliet movie. He was actually recommended for the part. In an interview with Cosmopolitan, Quindon said, "At the time, in 1995 I think it was, that's when I got signed to Virgin Records. I was working on my first album, and before being signed to Virgin, I had done an audition for Hollywood Records. I had met a lady there by the name of Laura Zifrin. Things didn't work out over at Hollywood, but Laura and I somewhat kept in touch. She heard that I got signed to Virgin and reached out to my management company. They needed a kid to sing that part in the movie, and she remembered me, and her people reached out to my people, and I went and auditioned, and I got the part." He knew he had already got the part. The audition was more of a formality, and he didn't meet the director of the movie that day. He actually sang for him over the phone. He sang His Eye is on the Sparrow because they wanted him to sing a song with a gospel theme. And Sister Act 2 had come out a couple of years earlier, and the song was famously featured in the movie. Quindon's scene was filmed at a cathedral in Mexico. He said they were quite high up on the balcony, and he was a little worried because he had to stand right up to the barrier as he led the choir who were behind him. "I just remember not wanting to fall or flip over. But that was really cool because that mic was right there, and you could see down and see this really huge cathedral. I was really excited because I had never, ever in my life done anything like this, and at such a young age, it was like, wow, my dreams are coming true. I'm already in a movie at the age of 12. Everything going through my head was like, just last month or so, I was just flying into LA, and things were just getting started with recording my album. And then here it is. Wow, boom. Here I am in a movie. And then with Leonardo DiCaprio, the whole experience was cool. And that moment was so epic for me." He said Leonardo DiCaprio was really down to earth, and they actually got to hang out on set. So at almost 13, he was on the set of a major movie, meeting different movie stars and getting to see how the movie was made. He said the atmosphere on the set was very positive, despite rumours that Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio didn't get along in real life. He said if they didn't like each other, they hid it well. He is so cool. He was one of the coolest, down-to-earth people that I think I've ever met. I've never experienced meeting someone like that, just to be so cool and down-to-earth and welcoming. He invited me into his dressing room, and then we went into his hotel room where we stayed. We shared caramel popcorn. I think that was the coolest thing, sharing popcorn with this movie star. "Well, did you meet him? How is he?" I was like, yeah, not only did I meet him, but we shared caramel popcorn in the same bowl, And then we even wrestled. Speaking of director Baz Luhrmann, who compared Quindon to a younger Aretha Franklin, Quindon said, "He's funny, to be quite honest with you. I just remember him making me laugh, and his accent. He's very serious. He wants it done, and he wants it done accurately." He was in the studio actually, when I recorded Everybody's Free. I remember meeting him and him being amazed by my voice. There's a video that's been floating around on YouTube where he says, "We were looking for a guy that sounded like a young Stevie Wonder, but much more, we got a guy that sounded like a younger version of Aretha Franklin." I was just like, wow, to be compared to her. Quindon was featured on the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack. The soundtrack went 3 times platinum in the US and reached 2 on Billboard. In Australia, it was the second highest selling album in 1997. Quindon's songs were 2 of the most popular songs on the album. The soundtrack went on to sell 40 million copies worldwide. Quindon actually revealed in recent years that he was paid $3,500 for his part in the movie. When he signed his contract, he didn't have an entertainment lawyer, and he was basically hired as a performer, and that was his fee for singing. So he didn't earn any royalties for the millions of copies of the album that was sold. Quindon said that he found out his contract was actually with Hooked Production Company, which later went on to be called Get Hooked, not with Virgin. This was Chris Stokes' production company. In a situation like this, the production company can pay the artist whatever they choose to, and they don't really earn royalties. Bobby Brown, in his book, said the same thing happened to New Edition with a production company called Jump and Shoot. Australia was where Quindon had a lot of success touring, including right up until a few years ago. Quindon's version of When Doves Cry went platinum too. It reached 3 in the Australian ARIA charts, and it stayed in the charts for 18 weeks. Quindon's self-titled album was released the same year, which included the single It's You That's On My Mind. That reached top 40 in the R&B charts. Later that year, he also toured Australia with Immature, Brandy and Monica. In one of his recent interviews, he alleged that he didn't get the money that was due to him from the tour. Being so young and with no entertainment attorney at the time, his finances were not protected. And sadly, it wasn't just his finances that were not protected. He himself wasn't protected in more ways than one. Quindon later went on to reveal that he was violated in the worst way imaginable as a young, vulnerable boy in the industry.
I did not want to sing anymore because it took so much from me. But really, it wasn't the singing that took from me. Actually, it was the bad people.
At 14, his career seemed to come to an abrupt end, and he went back home to Texas. Years later, he did make an appearance on American Idol in 2003. Quindon has also worked with various artists, such as Faith Evans, Tiny from Escape, and Player. In 2017, he started performing again in Australia and was set to release some music in 2018. He even had a Kickstarter. Quindon also worked in insurance for a little while.
That was 22 years ago. Has a lot changed for you in that time?
Yeah. I've grown, of course. I'm now a man. I've got vitiligo. And I've matured, and my voice has matured.
In 2017, Quindon opened up in an interview with Australian network ABC. He revealed that he was a victim of SA and explained that this ordeal is the real reason why he left the industry, or rather why he was forced to leave the industry. And he said that opening up about it over the years also hurt his career. I was going through some things at that time in my life. That's when some stuff that devastated me started taking place in my life. I was really a big mess, emotionally and mentally. I was trying to balance myself out. So when Romeo and Juliet was actually released, it was kind of hard to enjoy it. It was a really big pinnacle for me to reach at that age, and I was not able to enjoy it like I feel I could have or should have. But I still, to this day, think it was an amazing thing for me to do, and I'm glad that I was able to accomplish it and be a part of it. Everything was essentially taken away from him overnight. As well as dealing with the trauma of what had happened to him, he had to adjust to everything changing in his life. When that took place, I shared it with one person that I thought I could trust and confide in. This person went back and said something to my management at that time, and immediately I noticed that there was this distance. They wouldn't answer the phone when I came out to LA. It was extremely weird for me to experience such high success, to be in all the magazines, on a 90-city tour, travelling to Australia in first class, and getting paid to do what I love, and it to be snatched away. It was very weird, and not only that, it was very hurtful. I was very quiet. I was going through a lot. A lot of people deemed me as stuck up, somewhat snobbish, but that wasn't the case. I had to come back home because someone did something to me. I didn't know how to cope with that. I didn't know how to deal with that. I began drinking and dabbling in drugs, and I lost it, man. I spiraled completely. He said he could relate to other child stars who spiraled out of control in an attempt to deal with fame. It all came to a head in 2012, where Quindon attempted to take his own life. He ended up on life support for 17 hours. As part of his recovery, he checked himself into rehab. On May 8th of last year, I put myself in rehab, and I stayed there for a month. I made up my mind that I was not going to come out of those doors, that miserable person that walked in. I have not looked back. I'm back into my music, and I think my passion is stronger than ever. Speaking of his time in rehab, and taking steps to rebuild and overcome the hurt he had suffered, he said, "I took everything seriously, everything that I had suppressed inside, every hurt, every pain, every feeling, every hate, every regret, every resentment, all of it. I let go, I cried, I wrote on paper, every emotion came out of me in that rehab. It was a relief. I was free. Those burdens were all lifted. It was the most liberating, amazing feeling that I had ever felt in my life. I forgave the people that hurt me, the people that did cruel things to me. I forgave them, and I let it go so that I could heal. That was the only way I could heal. I walked out of there a free man, and I have not looked back. I'm back into my music, and I think my passion is stronger than ever." Obviously, Prince was a huge influence on Quindon, and having the opportunity to cover one of his songs, When Doves Cry, catapulted his career. Ironically, in many ways it was Prince who provided him with his next opportunity. When Prince sadly passed away, Quindon was invited to LA to perform in a tribute show. He received huge applause and great feedback on his performance. This inspired him greatly and encouraged him to release music once again. His first project was to release an updated version of his cover of the song When Doves Cry. Obviously, his voice had changed quite a bit since the first song.
Why do we scream at each other? This is what it sounds like when doves cry. Yeah.
And he was very much still in demand, especially in Australia, where he performed again in 2017. Quindon seemed to be in his element, performing once again in a country that embraced him from day one. He performed at the Hearts Run Free concert. He was clearly touched by the warm reception he received and the cheers from the crowd. When I was performing in Australia in 2017, I was definitely in my element. I've never experienced so much love and appreciation for my gift. I'm ready to receive that in the United States. It's time. On April the 1st, 2021, Quindon was involved in a fatal car accident in Dallas, Texas. His uncle Quindon Tarver said, he had been through so much, but his focus was on his music. He was getting ready to make his comeback. He had been in the studio working on a project that was supposed to be released this year. Another uncle, Willie Tarver, said, all we know is that he had a wreck, crashed into a wall somewhere on George Bush. That's all the information I have. Many came out to pay tribute to Quindon, including Baz Luhrmann. Quindon remained hopeful about his future in music. Shortly before his death, his last post on Instagram said the following: when I think about being at my lowest point in life and suicide was my only way out in 2012, after the attempted try that landed me on life support for 17 hours on a breathing machine, it was nobody but God. that put breath back in my body. This Dorinda Clark Cole song has been a testimonial song to me. It will hold dear to my heart forever. I thank God for being God.
But I learned to trust in God, to step right in and work it out. Nobody did it, ooh, but God, yeah.
Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below. You know I read the comments. Like and subscribe for weekly videos. And don't forget to click the bell for more.